Said, bro, what I gotta do to get you to hit the like button, dog? Do I need to decorate this background over here to get you to hit the like button? Huh? Is that what I gotta do to get you to hit the like button? Do I have to decorate the background? Or you just gonna hit the like button because you like me? Hit the like button, man. Let's go. We about to get into it.
Hold on one second. We about to get to the bottom of this, ladies and gentlemen. This don't make no sense whatsoever. Welcome to the Dark Waters channel, where we explore mysteries, figure out the truth, dive into politics, and anything else you want to know about. That's what we doing over here, baby. Let's go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. And tonight we're going to discuss some of the more important things in the news. And I want to keep it 100% real with you. Trump estimates $4 trillion worth of companies are moving back to the United States of America. And he announced today that one of the dealerships, I believe it was Honda. Let me find it. I believe it was Honda that is moving to Louisiana. And I want to be clear with people. An organization like Honda moving a manufacturing plant to Louisiana is a game changer. And so, as liberals rant and rave all over the place, I can't help but say that it's not going to work. The minute people get jobs, I mean, I'm talking about just the construction jobs for building the plant. It starts to change the lives in those local areas. Like, for example, let's say they were to take that plant to somewhere like, it would need to be outside of a major city and kind of outside the hurricane zone. So it would need to be north of I-10. Let's say they took it to somewhere which is driving distance from the majority of the major cities. So let's say they took it somewhere like Hammond, Louisiana, north of Hammond, Louisiana, where you can get on the road from New Orleans and drive 35 minutes, 45 minutes out of the city, which is the traffic is not coming into the city. It's going, when you're in the morning, traffic is coming into the city. Let's say you could drive 30, 45 minutes outside of the city to get to work. The sheer number of jobs that would create would turn blue areas of Louisiana red. Let's say it was outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, like in Baker, Louisiana, which the governor's probably going to do it in one of those areas. That would turn Baton Rouge completely red. It would turn blue cities into red cities. Why? Because people have jobs. The number one thing and issue that's affecting blue cities is the socialist policies of those cities where there is no job creation. For example, you take my hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana. It is a tourism city. And when tourism shuts off via hurricane, via terrorism attack, the city of New Orleans is in a bad situation. But if you add in multiple factories in the surrounding greater New Orleans area, that will affect New Orleans, Kenner, Metairie, Covington, Slidell, Bay St. Louis, LaPlace. You're talking about turning an entire area completely red. And this is why we voted for Donald Trump. Because these are the things that we need to see. Everybody can talk all the craziness about, oh, Donald's doing this, he's cutting this, he's cutting that. If there were no jobs coming, I would have a problem with him. I really would have a problem with all the cuts. But I mean, $4 trillion worth of companies coming into the United States of America. And the man ain't been in office for a solid 4 months yet. And I just think it's a shame that we can't get to the point to where we understand as a nation what's in our own best interest, because there's so much propaganda being fed and so much propaganda hitting people that they just can't see what's in their own best interest.
We had a very, very good cabinet meeting. We're on our way to some tremendous numbers. I think, first of all, many companies are now moving into the United States. They're coming back. Some of them left us from many years ago, decades ago, and they're all coming back. We have probably identified maybe $4 trillion worth of companies moving back or going to move back. Many of them have announced it's going to be tremendous jobs, high-paying jobs too. And you probably know the chip business, not because of the CHIPS Act, which was a disaster. You gave billions of dollars to companies that already have many billions of dollars. They said thank you very much. It was no incentive for them to use it. But what is good is the tariffs will make it so that they want to come back. That's why they're coming back. I think they're coming back because of the election that took place on November 5th and because of the fact that they have to come back because the tariffs are forcing them to come back. And remember, there are no tariffs if you build here, and that's a big factor. So we have record numbers. Howard was just telling me the numbers that we're talking about are crazy, beyond anybody's wildest expectation. So they'll be doing a lot of building, all sorts of businesses, including the basics of automobiles. We have, as you know, Honda's coming in with a massive plant to Indiana, but there are many plants that are happening, and literally some are started already. General Motors is already redoing plants that were half abandoned, or they have plants that weren't being fully utilized. They're going to be, they and others are going to be making parts and other things in those plants so that it's one-stop shopping finally. It's ridiculous. You had to go to Mexico, you had to go to Canada, a car went all over the place. It was like, I don't know how that would have worked, but that's the way it sort of ended up. We had a deal, and we have a deal, it's fine, but people took advantage of the deal. They cheated. And when you cheat, the deals are unfortunate. But now what's happening is the numbers are beyond our wildest expectations.
And man, you can't you can't ask for anything better than that. I'm sorry. You just can't ask for anything better than that. Jobs for the American people. Prosperity for the American people. And the crazy thing about it is, you know, as the tide rises, it lifts all the ships. So even the people who hate Donald Trump are going to benefit from it. It's just sad that it'll take so long for them to see the benefit in order to show some appreciation. Here's what I was looking for. POTUS announces Hyundai will build a $5.8 billion steel plant in Louisiana, creating 1,500 new jobs as part of the company's 20-plus billion U.S. investment. I mean, 1,500 new jobs in Louisiana is phenomenal because you got to understand, Louisiana had the shipbuilding industry, the sugarcane industry, the tobacco industry, and then tourism. We have naval bases and military bases there, and a lot of people in Louisiana are government employees. Outside of that, the largest employer in the state of Louisiana is the healthcare system. Second to the healthcare system or third to the healthcare system is the colleges and universities. But there's no way that the healthcare system should be the largest employer in the state of Louisiana.
Today, we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year. The cars are coming into this country at levels never seen before. Get ready. This investment is a clear demonstration that tariffs very strongly work, and I hope other things also, but the tariffs are bringing them in at levels that have not been witnessed.
And you know the thing that bothers me? If I'm the governor of a blue state, let's take, let's take something like California. The wise thing for the governor to do is to work with him to bring more jobs into the state, to make the state better. You'll stay in office much longer. But we don't see that. We see this resist thing at the expense of their own constituents. To me, it's absolutely insane. It's pure on insanity. You're resisting Donald Trump at the detriment and demise of your own constituents in your state. For example, Westmore. Wes Moore should be here getting deals done. If Wes Moore wanted to be president, Wes Moore could be the guy who got deals done for his state. And he would have a better shot at being president. Instead, I saw Wes Moore on TV, and he's playing the radical leftist game, which is a huge mistake. Wes, it's a huge mistake. There's quite a few of my friends that hang out and play golf with Wes, and they watch me, and I actually like Wes. I'll say this. Wes, if you ever watch me, I'm not sure if you do, but if they just so happen to hand you the cell phone on the golf course, take my advice. Stop appealing to the leftists. Go create jobs. Go do something for the people. And you will be an island unto yourself in politics. They're not going to allow you to run for president. You're not going into the race for president, Wes. There's no doubt about that. And the Democratic Party is not getting ready to win a presidency for quite a while, because as you lead up to the presidential election and as you go through the primaries, you're going to have some of the most loudest, leftist, craziest talking points there are come out. And I know that for a moment you may think, well, I'm going to come across as the sensible individual. And in normal circumstances, you do have the opportunity to come across as the sensible person. The problem that you have is between now and 2027, which is when all the running really starts, they're going to do so much damage to the Democratic brand that, quite frankly, you're not going to be able to dig out of that hole. So the best thing for any Democratic governor to do is to bring jobs to their state. Are you going to get attacked? Hell yes. Will you get voted out? No, you won't. You will not get voted out of office. It's not going to happen if you're actually doing something for the constituents in your state or in your city. You can't be an extreme leftist and do nothing and then expect to stay in office. It's not going to work. You've already seen what happened with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They did the opposite. But nonetheless, that's for the guys on the golf course, if you care to listen to someone who kind of knows what he's talking about, kind of has a bit of a reputation for knowing things. The next thing I want to talk about is this judge. Judge Boasberg allows Trinidad migrants to appeal aliens' enemies' deportation. On Twitter, someone said, why does this judge look so evil? Well, clearly he looks like the butler from the Addams family. But when you think about it, we know that these are Soros-appointed judges. And we went through the Soros-appointed judges on the state and local level. And now they're starting to be exposed on the federal and Supreme Court level. And it's a part of the process we're going to have to go through. Trinidad migrants must be allowed to appeal their deportations orders under the 1798 Aliens Enemies Act, Judge James Boasberg ruled Monday. The rule is likely to be appealed in part because Donald Trump's deputies say the judiciary has no role when the president invokes the 1798 Act to deport aliens amid an invasion or predatory incursion of the United States. This is unconstitutional, responded Stephen Miller, the president's deputy chief of staff. Before we watch what Donald Trump has to say about the activist judges, I want you to imagine for a moment what this means, not just to me and you, but what this means when someone that was in the middle, we're not talking about the extreme left, someone who was a centrist, someone who was a moderate, sees this. They see the crime. They know for a fact that there's gang members. And let's just say they were busy the majority of the day and they only got a few of the headlines, but they're smart enough to go and read some of the news, and they see that in their city, gang members from Venezuela have been raping, robbing, and pillaging all over the place. And then they turn on the news and they see that those people are being deported. And then they see the media up in arms about them being deported. Then they see the federal judges saying, no, you cannot deport these people. What do you think that does to that voting bloc as it pertains to the Democratic Party? I don't think it benefits them at all. The problem we face right now is that the destruction of the Democratic Party has to be public, and as it is public, it's kind of disgusting watching it happen because they have to play every card. And for someone with common sense, it makes no sense for them to play that card. So you're sitting here saying, hey, this is dumb. Why would you even do that? It makes no sense for you to make that move, right? And so it kind of frustrates you because you're saying to yourself, man, this is dumb. But what we have to remember is there are criminal elements inside of our government. They don't care about the constituents. They don't care about the mom or the little girl who was grabbed and snatched and pulled into the ice cream truck. They only care about covering their own behinds. They only care about making sure that they don't go to prison. When you look at it from that perspective, it's extremely clear what's going on.
It doesn't sound like this judge, who the DOJ is arguing with today about the deportation flights, he wants to know why the proclamation was signed in the dark, his words, and why people were rushed onto planes.
Because we want to get criminals out of our country, number one, and I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it, but Marco Rubio's done a great job, and he wanted them out, and we go along with that. We want to get criminals out of our country.
If there was a flight like tonight with these guys, even though it's still being litigated, if there was a flight tonight full of accused gang members and somebody called and said, Mr. President, I know that this is still being adjudicated, but we can get these guys down to El Salvador right now, would you say that that's okay?
I would say that I'd have the Secretary of State handle it because I'm not really involved in that. But the concept of getting bad people, murderers, rapists, drug dealers, all of these are really some bad people out of our country. I ran on that. I won on that. I got a margin, like, you reported it very well. Everybody did. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote. We won everything. And a big part of that was exactly this, getting bad people that shouldn't have been allowed into our country. Biden allowed them in. What they should be asking this judge, this radical left judge, he should be saying, why did Biden allow these criminals in our country? That's what he should be doing.
And it's true. What he's saying is absolutely true. The kind of disheartening thing about this is it has to go through litigation. And what's even more disheartening is it shouldn't have gotten to this point because of the last Supreme Court ruling. When a federal judge's ruling went to the Supreme Court, they should have knocked it down then. And I think we're going to have to go through a little bit of disappointment because the judges have to be judged by God. So they got to have the opportunity to do the right thing or do the wrong thing. And so you're going to see who's who. Everyone's going to be exposed. I mean, it is what it is. I don't like it. I don't think it's right. I don't think it should be happening. But at the end of the day, this is the process America has to go through. Because in order for Donald to do what he truly needs to do, it almost has to be to the point where the people have done things so ridiculous that everybody's begging for him to deal with them. They have to go so far across the Rubicon and set buildings on fire and do all these things, which they've already literally done. They're setting vehicles on fire now, but they have to go so far that 90% of the U.S. population says, nah, this is going too far. This is totally ridiculous. And I'm telling you, we're getting close. We're getting very, very close to that point based on what I'm seeing. I want to touch on something else. Watch this. Judge Johnson, 62% of federal injunctions in the last century handed down against Trump. 92% of those by Dem-appointed judges. So as the numbers play out, we see what's going on. And I wouldn't call them Dem-appointed judges. I would call them Soros-appointed judges.
Welcome back to Sunday Night in America. Against All Odds, that was a song by Phil Collins in a movie with Rachel Ward. There may have been other people in the movie, but I don't really remember them. Mike Johnson may star in the sequel. He passed a budget blueprint, avoided a shutdown, and kept a fractious conference coalesce. But there's always more work for a speaker. The House and Senate must reconcile and raise the debt ceiling and pass significant legislation and prepare for the midterms. Mike Johnson believes in miracles. I don't know if he needs one or not, but the work does not get any easier, and he joins us now. Welcome, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for being with us. How did you pull this off, and where do we stand on reconciliation?
Thanks, Trey.
Now, I really don't care much for Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy was vocal when he was in office. He really was. But when it came down to getting stuff done, I never saw Trey do anything. But he was super vocal. He gave some good, viral moments. Which, if we're being honest, that's the thing that disappoints me the most about some of the stuff I see. So, for example, in my opinion, there's too much talking. I give you a perfect example. The Tesla terrorism. There's no need to come out in the news and make an announcement. Hey, if you are burning Teslas, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I don't want to hear none of that. And to be clear with you, the average conservative is not riding around in a Tesla. I don't want to hear it. It should be one statement. Hey, I want you to be aware of the fact that if you are attacking Tesla shops, Tesla dealerships, Tesla factories, or Tesla owners, it is domestic terrorism. And you will be treated as a domestic terrorist. That's it. And say, hey, first and final warning, stop it now. There's no more talking. There's no more interviews. Now we arresting people. If I'm not mistaken, they just recently got together 1,000-man task force in the FBI to go out and see about arresting them. And it could be because the FBI has its problems. But I even said this. I said I didn't understand why they didn't start a new organization inside of the FBI where they hired all new agents that were vetted that could be active in dealing with these things while they went through the process of getting rid of the agents that, quote unquote, were deep state agents, because all FBI agents aren't bad. You know what I'm saying? But I never understood that. And so you could have stood up a force. Honestly, could have stood up a force of ex-Delta, ex-SEALs, ex-everybody. And all they needed was the technology component inside of there. Guys who were hackers and trackers and tracers. But the people to go out and actually do the work that would get active, you already got plenty of them. You could have got those guys to come in immediately. Could have picked up on the phone and said, hey, I know you've been out to SEALs for a couple of years. We need you in service in the FBI. Sure, I'll come to the FBI. Now, all of them wouldn't, every last one, all good up in the head. But the point I'm making is there's some mistakes that have been made that I think we could have gotten around a lot of this. So it wouldn't have gotten to this point.
Great to be with you, my friend. Good to see you. We pulled it off with a lot of prayer and a lot of patience. And teamwork. We're building muscle memory to deliver for the people and to deliver the America First agenda. We promised them that we would on the campaign trail last year. They gave us a mandate, the highest popular vote we've ever had for House Republicans, 74.8 million votes. President Trump, as you know, got 77 million. And we are working in tandem with the White House, with our Senate counterparts, the Republican majority in the Senate, to deliver for the people and get this done. And yeah, we've got some big wins on the board. Much more hard work ahead of us, but I'm absolutely convinced we're going to deliver, Trey.
Speaker, you are one of the more mild-mannered colleagues that I've ever had. The House can get a little rowdy from time to time. I thought the joint address was a real low point. You had a bird's eye view for that. Do House Democrats understand why they lost?
I don't think they do, Trey, and it's really surprising to us. They seem to be doubling and tripling down on the failed policies that gave us the big victory in last November. The antics on the floor were just another demonstration of why they lost the election. They've resorted to this name-calling and profanity. They have no leader, no vision, no platform they can run on right now. The Democrats...
All right, while Mike Johnson is running his mouth, till he gets to the point,
is flailing. But meanwhile,
I want to mention my sponsor to you guys, Genesis Gold Group. Now, I've said this over and over and over again. If you've been following me for quite a while, you know that I have been a silver bug for a long time. Gold is probably at its high right now, but every time I've seen people invest in gold, it's always been at some high in perspective to how it was years ago. And so if you have an IRA and you're interested in rolling over your IRA or a portion of it, and I would say it'd be a good idea to roll over a portion of your IRA into gold and silver, not the whole IRA, but a portion in the gold and silver, then I want you to head on over to darkwatersgold.com, darkwatersgold.com, and sign up. What's end up happening is you're going to fill out a form. Someone's going to reach out to you. They're going to send you a prospectus. They're going to go through the prospectus with you, and then they'll walk you through the process of why this is a good idea. Now, for those of you who don't have any silver or gold at all, they can hook you up with buying gold and silver. Point blank, period. You can buy your own gold and silver. And what I like about gold and silver is I want to have the physical gold or silver in my hand, because I don't believe I own it until I can take ownership of it. That's one of the things I like about cryptos. I can take ownership of those cryptos, put them in a wallet, make it a cold wallet, and leave it offline. You ain't getting to it, right? So if you haven't taken a look at silver or gold, and you're interested in taking a look at silver or gold, head to darkwatersgold.com, darkwatersgold.com, and check it out.
Groups sued Obama and Biden, and now groups are taking this administration to court. So as a constitutional law expert, what are the limits on executive power? And is this tension we're seeing really what our founders envisioned and built into the system?
No.
I think it is to a certain degree, Trey. I mean, I think you have a separation of powers. We have checks and balances. We have three co-equal branches of government, and they're supposed to sort of do this this tug of war when you have difficult questions. But I do think that the line is being crossed right now. I mean, I used to litigate constitutional law cases, high-profile cases in the courts. I did it for 20 years. And I ran into activist judges all along the way. I would litigate religious liberty defense cases, for example, and I would run into a Clinton-appointed judge or an Obama-appointed judge. And, you know, I had a judge look down his glasses at me and say, "Counselor, I know that's what the Constitution says, but we're doing something different." So, you know, I never walked out of those courtrooms thinking that I could impeach those judges. I just got as quickly as I could to the appellate court to get them overturned. But something's happening right now, Trey, that I think we all have to acknowledge. You've got a lot of activist judges, probably more than ever. And we were looking at the statistics, and the White House has pointed this out. 62%, for example, of the federal injunctions that have been handed down in the last century were handed down against President Trump. And 92% of those were done by partisan Democrat-appointed judges. So something's amiss. I think we've got to address it, and I'm looking forward to working with our good friend, Chairman Jim Jordan in the House Judiciary Committee to sort through this and find out what the remedies are to figure out how we can bring correction here, because I think it's important for our system of justice.
I'll tell you how you solve it. There's a legal loophole where you can fire those judges. Yeah. Everybody talking about impeaching. No. You can just flat out fire the judges, because they're not doing their job and they're not following the Constitution. They don't have the votes to impeach anybody. So let's just keep this real. When he talks about, hold on.
Mike Johnson, you know, they called Corey ten Boom the miracle worker.
When they talk about impeaching judgments, they don't have the votes to impeach a judge. They don't. So to me, it's just all blah, 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 blah. You don't have the votes to impeach the judge. So exploring that route is a waste of America's time, and it only gives them more time. They need to be fired. Now, the reason why they won't do it, in my opinion, is because they don't want that attention on them directly. Everybody's worried about their seats and getting reelected. So it's like, okay, if I go to the route of firing a judge, which it can be done, look it up. They're worried about their re-election campaigns. And it's safer to sit here and go back and forth and talk about how we're going to impeach a judge and do nothing than to actually solve the problem. But it's going to have to come to a head. And this is how I feel about it. Okay, they're challenging the executive branch. Let's let it get to the Supreme Court. when it gets to the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court doesn't side with the executive branch, which we, especially on this Enemies of America Act, which if you go read it, it's clear that he's done the right thing. Trump has done the right thing. If they don't side with the executive branch, now we have a true constitutional crisis. Everything that they're saying, oh, this is a constitutional crisis, this is no, now we have a true constitutional crisis. And unfortunately, I feel like we're headed that way. But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. Next thing I want to touch on is Governor Kathy Hochul. Governor Kathy Hochul says we're not going to allow this mass deportation. And again, this is where, unfortunately, in my opinion, the Trump administration is lacking the kahunas to do stuff. These governors, one of them has to go to prison. One of them has to be picked up and locked up. And I understand why they don't want to do it. You see, the reason why the Trump administration doesn't want to go get Kathy Hochul and put her in handcuffs is because that can spin her onto a national stage in a manner in which, depending on how the media spins it, it could lead one of them to the White House. It really could. And so maybe now is not the time to do it. But it's going to have to be done. Remember, what we don't, and it's kind of complicated because what we don't want to do is give the left the Donald Trump moment where, you know, she gets the, she kind of gets the mug shot and coalesce all these crazies together. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to give them that. When she goes to prison, it needs to be no bond, no nothing, you in prison. You understand what I'm saying? But even that in this media environment will be spun and twisted into something that the Democrats can take advantage of. However, at some point in time, something's going to have to be done. And I understand why he hasn't done it. But something's going to have to be done. Somebody's going to have to go sit down. It may need to be a mayor that goes and sit down. And when you see all these mayors, you know, talking broad, like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going. Understand, they're bluffing, banking on the fact that the publicity for arresting them would be so negative towards the Trump administration that that they'll be able to spin it. And what I hate to see, which, and I'll tell you, I truly hate to see this. See, if there's a mass casualty event, if there's a horrific murder, I mean, it's got to be like horrific, where it takes over the news cycle. It'll give cover for the arrest of one of these people. It really will. Now, if we played ball the way the Democrats played ball, if we did what the Democrats do, we would stage something. And it don't have to be real at all. It could be crisis actors. It'll be the whole thing. We would stage an event. Crisis actors, nobody ever got hurt. Nobody ever died. But we would stage an entire event in the city of New York and then arrest her. Or we'll stage an event in the city of Chicago and then arrest Brandon Johnson. The one thing that's always worried me about the Republican Party is the inability to get their hands dirty. And I don't know how it's going to be done without using some deception and misdirection. Nobody else is going to say this. But I just don't see it being done without at least misdirection. Somebody will say, well, DW, you know, that's going to be lying to the people. Well, understand that the conditioning of the existing population, they've been conditioned based on that misdirection and that deception. I mean, 9/11. What was that? The false flags that led us into wars. What were those things? The weapons of mass destruction. the yellow cake. You know what I'm saying? The pipes with yellow cake in it. It's unfortunate, but you see, if we're not going to take the Smith-Mott Act off the table and reinstitute it, then we're going to need to start using it. And that's the way to quickly, decisively beat them. If we're not going to take it off the table the way they can continue to use it against us and continue to lie with impunity, then we going to need to use it. And I know that sounds hardcore, but I'm just keeping it real with you. If I was in a room with the president and I was talking to him, I'd say, Mr. President, sir, I think you've done a great job, but I think it's about time you start to evaluate a few things. If you're not going to reinstitute the Smith-Mott Act, then we're going to need to start using it ourselves. And we need to put the same kind of pressure on Democrats, the same kind of tactics and maneuver on Democrats that they've used against us. Let's see what Pam Bondi has to say.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment.
That poor lady right there, man. Look at her eyes. You can tell that lady's been broken. I mean, she's been broken. Whatever happened to her, which I'm pretty sure was something that happened to one of her children or herself, that woman has been broken. That's a woman who's aged, rapidly in, probably hell, maybe 12 months. Look at her. Look at the bags under her eyes. Look at the look on her face.
Moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next.
Again, I would like to know where this lawsuit is, because this is an old clip. But also, I would like us to just stop talking and just get it done. Truly get it done. That's the one thing that I will say about the Trump administration at this point is less talk, more action. And the truth of the matter is there's a lot of action. And it's not even fair for me to say that. It truly isn't fair for me to say that, honestly. Let me show you something that doesn't make sense. Report: Trump National Secretary Team Group Chat on Houthi strikes included Jeffrey Goldberg, author of Suckers and Losers Hoax. This right here don't make no sense. This right here makes zero sense at all. How did a journalist and an author get invited to their Signals group chat? This is something that we're going to have to watch. This seems like it was some form of a setup. And it's trending on Google Trends right now, which lets me know that it was some form of a setup. When you go to Google Trends, there's zero political things trending for the most part. I'll go there now and you'll see Google Trends. But this is the number one trending thing, which to me was absolutely amazing. There it is, Pete Hegseth. And to me, it seems that this is a scheme to get Pete Hegseth out of office. And this is what I feel it is. But do I think it'll work? No, I don't think it'll work. Unless he invited the guy himself, which I seriously doubt he did it. But it's to throw dirt on Pete Hegseth. And the simple fact that it's trending, where I would check the trends every day, and there was very little that had to do with anything trending. You had Nicaragua gangs being deported to Ecuador, and it was not trending. One of the most trending things in the news, the video of them getting off the planes and getting on the buses, did not trend in Google, but this is trending in Google. So it lets me know that this is a Fifth Estate media attack on him. The editor-in-chief of the anti-Trump Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, was reportedly added to a group with the Trump cabinet members and other top officials that was created by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz to coordinate potential United States military strikes against Houthis 2 days before they happened, according to the magazine. According to the Atlantic, Waltz reportedly set up the group chat on the encrypted message Signal app Signal on March 13th to coordinate the strikes and appeared to have accidentally added Goldberg. The 18 members of the group chat included Waltz, Vice President J.D. Vance, Director of Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, United States Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff, White House Chief of Staff Susie Willis, someone believed to be Homeland Security Advisor, and the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller and others. The group chat was called Houthi PC Small Group, with PC meaning Principals Committee, a reference to the group of these top decision makers for each agency during the National Security Council meetings. This makes no sense. I'm going to tell you why this makes no sense. So you trying to tell me all these people are in a chat group and nobody looks to see who's in the group? All these are very intelligent people. You're trying to tell me not one of those people looked to see who all were included in the group. And it's possible that they didn't, because common sense would tell you that, quite frankly, nobody should be involved in a group that does not belong there. So let's just do a quick investigation. Who did they say invited him to the group? National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Let's see a little bit about National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Since 2025. All right, Mike Waltz, American politician, businessman, former under United States Security Advisor, President Donald Trump. He was a U.S. representative for Florida's 6th Congressional District. Waltz has received the Bronze Star. Waltz elected House Representative. Ron DeSantis. Hawkish members regarding China. Waltz resigns from the House. Born in Florida. Nah. That don't make no sense at all. A lifelong military guy, that don't make sense at all. That makes no sense to me at all. There's something else going on with the story, and I think it's going to get flushed out. I haven't checked. Let me go see if Uncle Alex has anything to say about this. Let's just see real quick. We know the Jesse Smollett 2.0, can sue school districts, Jasmine Crockett, which I'm tired of talking about. No, nothing there. Nothing at all. This is one we're going to watch because this makes no sense. We know we have a number of leakers inside the administration. The issue would be who invited the person in there. Let me read this again. Potential. Waltz reportedly set up the group on encrypted Signal app and appeared to have accidentally added Goldberg to it. Accidentally added Goldberg, the guy who wrote Suckers, author of Suckers and Losers Hoax. Let's see something. Okay. All right, so none of this makes any sense. So he's the guy who, as an author, dissected the suckers and losers hoax that was run against Donald Trump. None of this makes any sense. None of it makes any sense at all. But, all right, let's finish reading this. Waltz reportedly sent the following message on March 13th. Team establishes principal SIC group for coordination on Houthis, particularly over the next 72 hours. My deputy, Alex Wong, is putting together a Tiger team at deputies agency chief of staff level, following up for the meeting in the Situation Room this morning. For action items will be sent that out later this evening. Please provide the best POC for your team for us to coordinate with over the next couple of days. Members of the group chat then sent their names or points of contacts on the strikes. The next day, Waltz told the group they should have received messages in their classified computer and communication system regarding the task. Goldberg said a fascinating policy discussion commenced. Vance said regarding the strikes, okay, so Goldberg knew he wasn't supposed to be in the group, and he stayed in the group. Wow. Let me ask you a question. Let's just hypothetically say, let's just say you got invited to a secret group of the top government people in the defense of the United States government. And they were talking about coordinating an attack on an enemy. And you looked at your phone, and your phone said, yeah, this is Pete Hegseth, and this is Tulsi Gabbard, and we talking about blah, blah, blah. And your phone is ding, 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 ding. What would you do? I'm serious. What would you do? What would the person with common sense do? Man, I don't belong in this damn chat. Hold on. How the hell I get out of this? How the hell I get out of this shit? Right? Get me out of this right now. Then, this is why it makes even less sense. So you was in the group. You know you didn't belong in the group. And then you come out and you talk about the fact that you was in the group? Hell no. I'm not doing that. First of all, I'm leaving the group. Then I'm calling somebody and say, hey man, one of y'all invited me to this group. I ain't supposed to be in this group, man. I don't want no smoke. Somebody made a mistake. Delete my number to make sure you don't make this mistake ever again. Don't ever put me in that kind of situation again. What is wrong with you? What the hell, man? That's what I would say. That's what you would say. That's why I said something about this doesn't make any sense. It's going to play out. We'll figure it out. I don't want to dig any further into it. I'm just telling you it don't make no damn sense. Now, unfortunately, to get views, I'm going to have to name this video what they're talking about on the number one trend, which is basically Pete Hegseth messing up. Even though they tell you that Pete Hegseth didn't invite the dude into the group. And this is how you know it's an attack on Pete Hegseth. Because here's what they say. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz coordinated a potential U.S. strike. And Mike Waltz invited him to the group. What this got to do with Pete Hegseth? I have no clue. Matter of fact, let's go see what Pete Hegseth has to say about this before we go. We need to go back to X and see what Pete has to say. Oh my Lord, what is that thing? What is that? What in the world is that? Why is this black all of a sudden? I thought this was white. Let's see. Pete Hegseth. Also, he's an anti-Trump journalist. Let's take a listen.
mean, jaws are on the floor across Washington, across the national security space right now, because here you have a reporter who was included in the deliberations over one of the biggest national security events this year, the bombing of the Houthis that started on March 15th. And Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was privy to the details days ahead of time. What happened is that it appears that Mike Waltz, the national security advisor, added him to a group conversation on Signal, this encrypted app, so presumably these other officials felt like what they were saying was safe. Why he was added, we still don't know. That is the first of a long list of questions, but others on this group chain included the CIA director, the secretaries of defense, of state, the director of national intelligence, and the list goes on. So in the days ahead of this bombing of Yemen, there are these conversations about whether it should happen. J.D. Vance, the vice president, actually pushed back, saying it ran counter to other positions that the president had taken on Europe, but he deferred to the others, and they decided to go ahead with this bombing of the Houthis, which started, this latest campaign started, it's been going on for quite some time, on March 15th. 2 hours before the first bombs dropped, an update was sent by Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to the others, in which it had stunning detail about, Jeffrey Goldberg reports, the forthcoming strikes, the information about targets, the weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and the attack sequencing. And Goldberg repeatedly says he didn't know if it was real. It could have been a disinformation campaign. It could have been foreign spies who were trying to do this.
Oh, really? Now it makes sense. Now it makes all the sense in the world. There's no way that, I'm telling you, man, there's no way this could have accidentally happened. I mean, there's no way. There's no way it could have accidentally happened. Somebody was dumb enough, and it wasn't Mike Waltz, to leak and send this man, put this man into this chat. I mean, really, when you think about it, if I'm the one, like the Secretary of Defense, am I really sitting there with my phone saying, okay, I'm going to set up this chat group. Let me get Donald Trump involved. Let me get J.D. Vance. Let me get this. Let me get that person. I'm not doing that. You know what happens? Somebody who works for me sets it up. And they say, sir, we have the group chat set up. I'll give them an order. Hey, like my producer, Wes, I want you to get this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And get back to me when you know with some information on the people. He'll come back. Oh, James, we missed this appointment with this person. We scheduled it for the wrong time. I'm going to get back with them. Okay, get back with me once you got it squared away with them. Give them my sincere apologies. Let them know I'll talk to them about the delay and the error once we finally talk. But get back to me with the information. So we're talking about things that are delegated to other people. So somebody who this was delegated to set this up and let this reporter in. Wow. And that somebody is going to pay hell for it. Because this is only going to be in the news for maybe a day. They're going to try and push it as much as they can, try and use it to get someone from the Trump administration removed. But, I mean, somebody about to pay hell for this. And then when you talk about the reporter who was invited into the group, like I said, who sits in a group like that? And now he's sitting there saying, well, he didn't know it could have been a hoax. It could have been this. Nah, bruh. Who sits in a group like that? I damn sure wouldn't. I'd be like, hell no. So it's an attack on Pete Hegseth. And it's mighty funny that his face is the target of this attack. Not the person's office that it came from. It's his face. You know what I'm saying?
If you really believe for 1 second that Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, J.D. Vance, and Pete Hegseth just accidentally let a journalist from The Atlantic into their group chat on Signal discussing war plans, then there's a word for you. That word starts with an R and ends with E-T-A-R-D, retard. There is no world. I do Signal chats, I do Telegram chats, I do group chats all the time. You don't randomly add Atlantic journalists and then continue the conversation. Because these Signal chats, a lot of the times, they don't even update. You don't get to add them and see all the stuff before. So they had to add him. And then they had to start talking. Please, This is called leaking to the press without leaking to the press. This is how you do it. This is how it's done.
Why would you leak to the Atlantic? See, this is dumb. Why would you leak to the anti-Trump Atlantic? Anybody who knows anything about the Atlantic is the globalist damn magazine. They're the globalist freaking... This dude is retarded. You started with an R and ended with an ETARD. The Atlantic is the globalist outlet, one of the globalist command centers. Why would they let the globalist command center into their chat?
The Trump camp has been famous for this for years, remember?
Oh my God, these people are dumb. These people are dumb. Exactly. The Democrats are calling for Pete Hegseth to resign. This was a setup to try and get him to resign. And Pete Hegseth, you better not resign. Considering the things that we've seen, you trying to tell me he going to resign over somebody being allowed into a group message that he didn't allow into the group message when we got billions? Man, get the hell out of here. It's an attack on Pete Hegseth. Let's see what Pete had to say for himself.
Full work day here as well, and looking forward to it. One question.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in the Atlantic, and were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will...
I want y'all to look at something, and I want you to see something. Pete Hegseth is a man that did it. He a man that actually went there and did that thing. You know what I'm saying? He the man that kicked in doors and went and laid down people. You can see his anger in the way he's speaking. I'm gonna start it over, and I want you to look at his body language. This is the body language of a man who's like, I'm getting sick and tired of being sick and tired with all these games. Let me pick it up where he starts talking.
Yemen was shared with a journalist in the Atlantic, and were those details classified? That
little smirk was like, these mother. And this is, was Pete Hegseth a SEAL? Was he a Green Beret? I'm not sure what he was. I don't think he was just a Marine. But what I know was that he was active in deployments. And I want you to see that active mentality right here.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time.
See that look right there? That look right there is, you don't know who you're talking to. And for you to attack my credibility after everything I've done for this nation with this journalist, you don't know what I'm willing to do to you. These are the type of men that the Lord has to put a leash on them. You don't believe me? That's why he has an entire damn tattoo over his chest. The Lord has to put a leash on these type of men. Because these type of men will rather cut your throat than hold a conversation with you. And out of all the conversations I've seen him have, this is the first time I've seen him activated like this mentally.
Time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people.
See how it's almost as if he wants to invade that reporter's personal space? But he's got enough discipline to keep his feet still but he's projecting himself forward to invade that person's personal space. I don't know if you ever had a conversation with somebody where you had an argument and you start talking and you start to invade their space without moving your feet. So you'll start moving forward. Your upper body will move forward to make a point. This is how I know for a fact, just by reading his body language, that this was all a setup and he knows he's being targeted. And quite frankly, he's extremely pissed. And I don't blame you, Pete. I would be pissed. But there's some things you're going to need to start doing, brother. And I think y'all going to get to the point to where y'all getting tired of dealing with this foolishness. I really think they're going to get to the point to where they're tired of it. And we'll see what happens when they do.
On both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
You see what I'm saying? He's doing everything he can say. I mean, he's literally doing everything he can do to keep from grabbing her by the neck.
I've heard that was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Right,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's
The
it.
NSC said it was authentic.
All right, that's Secretary Hegseth after having landed in Hawaii.
Yeah. Yeah. So, told y'all that it didn't make any sense. And to this moment, I mean, it still don't make any sense. Now, let's just, I want to end this video because I'm getting hungry. But let's just follow what he said. Nobody was texting war plans. If nobody was texting war plans and there was no group set up, which this will come out, we'll know. We'll know based on what Trump says. If nobody was texting war plans and this was a setup, then someone leaked the Signal chat to the journalist, and then the journalist came up with this story that he was inside the chat in order to leak the information and talk about it. Now, you notice he did it after the strike. So someone leaked him the chat log or leaked him the conversation log, which it makes sense that they may have some form of text message conversation. Let's keep it real. But someone leaked him some specific intel from a conversation that was via electronic device. It makes all the sense in the world that they had some kind of electronic device conversation, right? But someone leaked it to him. And then he came up with a creative way of using that leaked information to target Pete Hegseth by saying, I was in the chat. And I mean, quite frankly, how do you verify whether he was in the chat or not without acknowledging and falling into the trap that you guys were discussing plans over Signal or some form of chat? Now, it doesn't make sense why the U.S. military would use Signal. That's dumb as well. I mean, you would have to think that the United States of America has something more secure than Signal, but whatever. But nonetheless, if you respond to the question and say, well, if you respond in any way about him being inside of the chat, then you acknowledge that there was some kind of text messaging back and forth about the war plans, which makes all the sense in the world that there should be some kind of messaging back and forth. It shouldn't be in Signal. I seriously doubt if it was in Signal. But if you fall into the trap, then it's like, yeah, you guys were messaging about war plans. And that's why he left it off with, there was nobody messaging about war, text messaging. How did he say it? Because he said it specific words.
Was texting war plans.
Nobody was texting war plans.
Mischaracterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's.
And see, that's the trap. That's the trap. That's why he just addressed it. Nobody was texting war plans. Any other answer to that question leads to a rabbit hole that destroys him. So he laid out that the guy's a hoaxer. Now, the thing that gets me is we already know that the Atlantic is a globalist magazine and a globalist outlet. In fact, when we were looking at the content about the DARPA and what was going on with DARPA and military weapons, I suggested that if we wanted to see what was coming out of the Department of Defense, to go look at the Atlantic. And so we went, if you guys recall, we went to the Atlantic to see what they were saying and then backtracked into DOD and then backtracked into DARPA. So it makes sense that it would be the Atlantic. What I'm not getting at this point in time is you would think that somehow, some way, that these people would have the fear of God in them to where they wouldn't play these kind of games with these hoaxes. That's what's confusing me. And I think I'm going to be confused with this for a while. I think I will. I have to admit, I think I'm going to stay in a state of confusion as it pertains to this because none of that makes any sense. With this overwhelming mandate that, that's why. That's why they're removing security clearances. Somebody with a security clearance saw this information and handed it off to the Atlantic. That's why they were removing all these security clearances. And when you think about it, all the security clearances were removed prior to this story breaking. So they knew this story was coming. And that's why you saw that wave of security clearances being removed. And that wave of people not having access to the building. Thank you, Lord. I appreciate you telling me that. It makes all the sense in the world. So this is the aftermath of the security clearances being removed. So this is, oh, you took my security clearances? Let's strike back at them. Boom. With this. So we can expect more of these stupid hoaxes to come. Yeah, we can expect more of these. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only James Williams, Dark Waters, I'm out of here. Head on over to darkwatersgold.com. Darkwatersgold.com.